Hey everyone, happy Motivational Monday. I've been thinking a lot, as I'm sure so many people have, about everything that we've been experiencing over the past week, 2 weeks, whatever, and of course your mind goes back to the past 6 months, the past year, the past 5 years, the past 10 years, whatever is relevant to where we are now. And I know that a lot of people are focusing on the downside of things, the anger, sometimes the destruction that's played out in many ways. But I've also been thinking about how much there is on the other side too, that is there that we are ignoring to some degree. There's a lot of strength in what we're seeing. So we've seen a resistance to people expressing their First Amendment rights to some degree, in terms of peaceful protesters receiving poor treatment, media receiving poor treatment, and I tell you something, I'm in favor of getting information, and it's up to us to discern how much of that is sensationalized, how much is hyped up unnecessarily. I think we can do better by having less of that, and more objective reporting everywhere across the board. I also think that there are some outlets that do a better job of actually just presenting the information and not necessarily coloring it too much, or trying to give more than one side to the information, and that's important. But we need information, and certainly the people who go out and do their jobs to gather information and report it are pretty much like everybody else going out there and trying to do their best at the work that they've given their hearts and their lives to. They are professionals, and to think anything less of them than that, I think, is really ignoring and dishonoring average people who go out and do their work. And I say average meaning normal, regular people. And some have attained a certain level and notoriety, and yeah, those people are there. But there's so many people from the bottom to the highest rungs in that profession, just like there are in professions across all of America, who are just going to do the best that they very well can. And we need to celebrate everyone doing the best that they can. I talked about the anger that we've seen, and I also think that aside from the anger, there's been so much compassion and so much empathy, not from everyone, but we've seen it. And I think there was a whole bunch of compassion, certainly anger, but there was compassion that connected to George Floyd's killing, and that is why you also see people taking unprecedented steps to be way more vocal about their understanding and their support surrounding what's going on in the nation. I think it's so heartwarming to see people across many different racial backgrounds speaking up and challenging everyone, including their segment of the population, to be better people, to do more, to recognize our own predispositions toward prejudice or disinterest or inaction, and challenging each and every one of us to step forward and be the best people we can possibly be, to say, no, that's injustice, and we have to put a stop to it. We have to be the ones who demand a better America. we are literally sometimes overlooking just how great we can be. There is literally no nation on the planet that has this much diversity nested within its shores. No nation to this great extent. And my gosh, if we can get out of our heads and this really pocketed notion of self-interest that I have to, in order for me to win, somebody else has to, lose, or that there's a very limited pie and we all have to scramble to get something, and so somebody else who came here after me is somehow taking away from what I have that I can provide for myself or for my family. It's very it's a narrow view, and it's not real. Guess what? When we care about one another, we actually can take excess and redistribute. Because we all know in America there's a lot of people who have way more than they really need. And, several of those people give a lot. They recognize a responsibility to give back to the country that really created the environment under which they could accumulate that kind of personal wealth. But then there are others who don't acknowledge that responsibility and who are much more, cavalier about whether they even have the need to pay taxes and contribute to everything that everybody else is paying for in any meaningful way. And those people are, in a sense, shirking a portion of their responsibility to each and every one of us. And I hope that everybody reassesses, what their responsibilities are. You coming up with an idea and making a lot of money off of it and creating a lot of jobs for people doesn't mean that you don't have to pay your fair share of taxes, or the corporation you created doesn't have to pay its fair share of taxes. Come on, let's be responsible. Let's care for one another. Let's all chip in as it counts. And that also means let's all show compassion for one another. Like many of the people who are out there who could just be sitting on the sidelines, who are actually actively saying, this is wrong. I'm going to go and join hands with the people who are experiencing this kind of the hurt and dysfunction in their segment of the American diaspora, and we're going to stand by them and make sure that change comes to the country that betters the country. We cannot accept being any less than the great nation that we can be. And that is really the challenge here, is to understand that there have been failings that have been unaddressed for a very, very long time. And we have an opportunity to set aside things from the past and feelings from the past that are limiting us still, and acknowledging the strengths that we have to be at the top tier and be an example to all other nations where conflict arises because one nation is interested in themselves versus another. We're like literally the amalgam of so many different peoples of different backgrounds. We have the opportunity to use the strengths of every single person who has come to these shores to continue to better our society. But we have to recognize that that is literally a true strength of the nation, and be interested in learning and becoming more, becoming better, leaving behind the things that have limited us. So let's acknowledge the compassion, the empathy, all the beauty that people have shown in wanting to support one another, and recognize that the challenges that we face now are challenges that we can overcome when we link hands and work together. My gosh, America, this is our opportunity to be the very best we can be. So, how are you going to start out your week? What is going to be your contribution to making this the best, most exciting, most beautiful place to live possible? How are you going to take on a little segment of your life to be, and challenge it to rise to a higher level? What are you going to do this week to be the best possible person you can be? When you wake up, dream of that for 5 minutes, for 1 minute, for how many ever seconds you can. And think about just how wonderful it would be to walk into an America that has achieved its truest potential. Get up and go out into the world and make that America happen. Happy Motivational Monday. This is Dexter wishing you all the best now and always. Take care of yourselves. Hey, if you like any of the content that I post here, please be sure to click that little like button or the heart and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. You can also subscribe on my YouTube channel, so like and subscribe me there too.